Hello there, I'm Michael Bartel. Happy Easter. I'm doing this video because I had some experiences recently that I think would be useful to share, even though, for reasons that'll become obvious in a short time, I have been really nervous about sharing them. Oh man. Most people who know me, you'll know that I'm a pretty happy person a lot of the time. I'm usually smiling. I have a lot of joy for teaching yoga, and that's something that I feel really excited about sharing with people, even more than teaching the actual yoga poses or the meditation techniques, which are really important too. But it's that feeling of joy that I get when I'm in a room that's full of people that are enthusiastic about practicing with me, that I feel really, in a way, defines me for better or for worse in my professional life. But at the same time, I also, all my life, have had episodes where I've been depressed. And that used to happen a lot more often. When I was younger, when I was a teenager, I would have episodes of depression that would last for months at a time. And since I started practicing yoga, which was when I was 18, those times of depression have come fewer and further between, and also they tend not to last as long as they used to. But that being the case, I still do from time to time get depressed, and it's something that I've felt really embarrassed about. I do yoga, like I meditate all the time, I'm really spiritual, and I'm this joyful person. Shouldn't I just stop being depressed? And I've realized that that's just not realistic at this point in my life anyway. Most recent struggle with depression was just about a month ago, and it was due to a really, really painful breakup. And I think that even if people don't struggle with depression normally, probably they would have felt much the same way I did at the time. But the feelings of depression that I get from time to time don't always happen for a reason. Sometimes people say things to me like, "Oh, Michael, why are you feeling depressed? Like, you've got this great life, and you're." But I read this book recently, which I highly recommend, even if you don't get depressed. If you know somebody who gets depressed, or if you think you might someday, because probably you will. Not that you probably won't get depressed if you don't already. I don't really know. There's no way of knowing, but you probably will at least meet somebody who gets depressed at some point in your life. Reasons to Stay Alive by Matt Haig. Matt, I don't know you. I hope I'm saying your surname correctly. It's really phenomenal. And one of the first sections I read, I opened it at random, and it talks about how, people say things to depressed people that they wouldn't say to other people with other kinds of illness. Like, you've got this really great life. Like, why do you get cancer? You've got so much going for you. Why do you have MS? It's not thought of in the same way, particularly for men, I think. We do, however, have this really great campaign here in Britain, which is CALM. It's the campaign against living miserably, and it's particularly directed at men. I read also via this fellow, Matt Haig, that in this country at least, I'm not sure where else this is true, that depression, well, suicide in particular, which is a symptom of depression, is the leading cause of death amongst men under 50. The leading cause of death. I mean, it beats cancer, it beats heart disease, it beats, accidents, suicide is the leading cause of death amongst men under 50. And I think part of the reason for that is that men aren't traditionally encouraged to talk about these things. And so that's part of the reason I'm doing this video, is that I want to contribute to the conversation rather than keeping it hidden. So I do feel embarrassed to a degree that I'm a yogi, but then also sometimes I get these moments of depression. The funny thing about this most recent episode of depression that I had was it was so bad that I didn't want to speak to even my close friends who really love me and who were really concerned about me. I was avoiding everybody's phone calls. But the big realization that I had today when I was reflecting on this episode that I had last month was that the people whose phone calls I answered, well, there's only one person whose phone calls I answered really, which was my friend James. This is my friend James. His name is James Rhodes, as you can see. He's got a really fantastic book called Instrumental. And if you read this book, you'll understand why I kind of thought he might understand what I was going through at the time. He's incredible, and has an amazing perspective and has been through so much more than I have in terms of the intensity of the experience he's had. The other person I reached out to at one point was Stephen Fry. And yes, I did just name drop Stephen Fry, Britain's national treasure. But there's a very specific reason why this story only makes sense if it's him. James Rhodes is a good friend of Stephen's, and I don't know Stephen all that well. I've met him a few times. A little moment to brag, I did give Stephen Fry his first yoga lesson, which was a high point in my life. But as many of you will know, Stephen Fry has had his share of challenges with bipolar disorder and depression and things like that. And I thought of him in the midst of this struggle that I was having. Here's this amazing man that has gone through probably more intense stuff than I have too, but he has made it through. And, here I am sitting thinking like, am I ever going to be able to work again? Am I ever going to be able to be happy again? Am I ever going to be able to succeed? And, I think about Stephen Fry, who has had this really intense life, struggling with all sorts of things. And he still has been like the most incredible, most like productive, most hilarious, most successful, and most importantly, he's so kind. And so thinking about him during that time made me think, maybe there is some hope for me, I hope. So I emailed him just a little quick note to tell him that I'd been going through some really challenging stuff, and that thinking about him was really helping me. The next morning, he emailed me back. So he says, "Michael, how great to hear from you, but how sad to know that life has been tough. I'm really pleased to know that you're slowly easing yourself in the right direction. At least it may help, I hope, for you to know that you are in populous company in being sometimes afflicted by these incoming storms. And for you to know, too, that no part of those storms are your fault, any more than meteorological ones could be. Thank you so much for your kind words, and I hope you will believe in yourself and your splendor and strength. Stephen." Hearing that from him really meant a lot to me, but I reread that message today because I hadn't responded to him. That was a month ago. And I responded to him and thanked him and told him I'm in a much better place now. But the realization that I had today was that as embarrassed as I was as a yoga teacher, as someone who was supposed to be there to, help people through their struggles, to have been dealing with this depression, the only people I wanted to talk to when I was really deep in that depression were people who had been depressed, people who I knew had been depressed, and particularly men who I knew had been depressed. And I hadn't realized that at the time that those were the specific people I was seeking out, but in retrospect, it makes perfect sense because, I knew that they would understand me. Having had that realization that these folks were the people that I wanted to reach out to made me realize that it's so important for me as a person who wants to be able to lead people through their challenges to open up to the fact that I go through them myself, because maybe there's somebody out there who only wants to talk to somebody who's been able to understand what they're going through. And nobody's going to come to me if they don't know that that's been the case for me as well. And that, of course, I've made it through them, and that you will too if you have some kind of struggle. Part of me, there's a little voice in the back of my mind that's thinking, maybe some of my current students will watch this and they'll think, oh, wow, this yoga teacher, he's like been depressed and maybe I don't want to take class with him anymore. And I hope that's not the case, but if it is the case, then I suppose that's something I'm going to have to be willing to accept. But I think for what it's worth, the fact that I've had depression in my life is one of the things that has made me so passionate about practicing yoga and teaching yoga. And when I was doing my teacher training, being there and hanging on every word that my teachers were teaching me, because I knew that at some point along the way, the tools that they were giving me would come in handy, and they really have. I mean, I would not have expected to be in the happy place that I am now a month ago when I was, deep in this depression. I went through it so much more quickly than I would have expected to. And I think it's only because of the fact that I was able to do yoga. As much as I wish they could just go away forever, I think that probably these episodes are going to be with me maybe for the rest of my life. But I think that if they can continue to stay rather condensed and move along quickly, that's better. But the other thing that's helpful, of course, is to talk about it with people. And they want to be there for me, which is an amazing thing. And I think that probably you have people in your life, if you're going through something challenging, that want to be there for you too. So you need to give them that gift of being able to be there for you so that you can feel that gift of being able to be there for them when they need you. So stay close to your friends and your family because they'll help you through it. If you're a man in particular and you haven't gone to yoga yet, please give it a try. I always feel so lonely in these big groups of women when I'm teaching, and I'm always like, where are the men? Come on, bring some men. But I think it can help you to connect with what you're feeling, and better that than the alternative. Open up, be present with yourself, know that whatever you're going through will definitely pass, and there's a wonderful life waiting for you on the other side of it. And in fact, whatever you're going through is going to give you a sense of depth of dimension that you wouldn't have if you didn't have these little rough patches. I really wish everyone the best, and I hope to hear from you soon, your own thoughts, your own comments. Please keep it clean. And I'll see you next time. Namaste.